journalists around the world, please welcome the Fantastic Four.
I've always been a fan of the Fantastic Four since as far as I can remember liking superheroes. I remember getting my first collection of comics from my mother, who got them from my grandmother to give to me when I was, old enough to take care of them. Most of them being Spider-Man or The Flash, and a little bit of horror comics in there. But one stood out among the rest, though. I can't remember what issue it was exactly, but I remember seeing Johnny Storm on the front, on fire, flying through the air with the rest of the Fantastic Four behind him. The colors and the assorted powers between the group were fascinating. I immediately became a fan of the Thing. His rock body and his super strength were immediately appealing to me as a kid. To me, any character that was bigger and stronger than any of the others automatically became a favorite. I love the Hulk for the exact same reason. I had a party that was Hulk themed. I had Hulk toys, I had Hulk shirts, I had my own Hulk lunchbox that I still have to this day. Any super strong character, basically, who stood out in color and appearance was an immediate draw for me as a kid. It wasn't until later that I could finally understand that there was more to this group than just its individual characters and their cool powers. The team itself and how close they were just as important. The nuances of their relationship were lost on me in early readings of comics. I had a few miscellaneous comics, so I never knew the backstory of these characters. I knew they were a team. I knew Sue and Reed were together, and Johnny is Sue's brother, and Ben is Reed's best friend. They were closer in relationship than most hero team-ups, so they always stood out among teams like the Avengers or the Justice League or Teen Titans. Teen Titans had that family bond, but this was different. And it wasn't until the first movie came out in 2005 that my love for these characters deepened and went to new heights. I remember getting it for Christmas, burned or pirated, but that's how I got most of my movies. I don't think saying that now is a problem. I'm sure the statute of limitations on piracy is long gone by now, but best believe I watched it as soon as I could and finally started to understand the bigger picture. Reed Richards leads an experimental space mission accompanied by Sue Storm and her brother Johnny Storm and his best friend and pilot Ben Grimm. During this mission, the team is exposed to unexpected bursts of cosmic radiation. These cosmic rays then end up altering their DNA, giving each of them their own powers. Reed Richards becomes Mr. Fantastic and is able to stretch and contort his body. Sue Storm becomes the Invisible Woman, and she's able to turn invisible and generate force fields. Johnny Storm becomes the Human Torch, capable of generating flames and flying, and Ben Grimm is transformed into the Thing, a superhuman with extraordinary strength and a very Rocky-like appearance. That's the story in the comics, but the movie, introduced Victor Von Doom as a benefactor, basically, for the mission, and a potential enemy in the future who, ends up becoming Doctor Doom. And this movie, for me, checked every box. It was hilarious. It had great action scenes, and Chris Evans and Jessica Alba weren't bad to look at either. If you know, you know. But seeing the relationship between these characters in this movie was key to establishing the Fantastic Four. They truly were a family, and you could feel that. Regardless of the reception of the movie, I loved it, and the second one I loved even more. When the new Fantastic Four was announced, I was excited, and hearing that Max Shackman, the guy who made WandaVision, was now in charge of making a new movie, I wasn't entirely sure if I was going to like his iteration or not. WandaVision had a specific vibe to it that I didn't know how that would match with the Fantastic Four, but after watching it, I was thoroughly wrong. It's no secret that the recent phase of MCU movies have not been great. Thunderbolts, while not a bad movie at all, was not the success I assume that most people might thought it would be. But this one felt completely different from the rest of these recent MCU movies. The retro future land aesthetic of the movie was amazing. Never once did I feel like this Earth was similar to ours or any Earth that I've seen in any other MCU movies. The set design was incredible. I know Khosrow Farahani, who designed set pieces for Loki, helped establish this world and all the architecture, and I think he did a really great job. I felt that this world was completely lived in and different than all the others. Just from the opening scene with Reed and Sue, I knew I was going to enjoy this. The conversation they have and the acting and the emotions of starting a family were perfect in establishing what kind of movie this is. Immediately starting the movie with two characters excited about having a baby is perfect to a story whose main theme is about family. And that's really all it needed to hook me in. And these characters are new to us, at least in this world, this universe. And this is their first movie, so I was worried on how they'd go about establishing them as already pre-existing heroes in their own world. But they put my mind at ease when we were given a highlight reel on the TV, basically, of everything that's happened to them in the past couple years. Like how they got their powers, and all the villains they faced up until now, and how much the planet as a whole supports them. They have a myriad of villains that they fight on a pretty regular basis, but the movie feels like they're the only heroes, and I think that makes it so much better knowing that they're the sole protectors and the main focus of this whole movie. There isn't any other characters that have to share the spotlight with them. For a first movie introducing them, that's perfect. They're completely the center of attention, and I love that. After the first scene of seeing Sue and Reed talk about that, they're going to have a baby, we cut to Ben and Grimm and Johnny Storm in the kitchen, making dinner, getting ready to eat. Seeing them banter back and forth, preparing the food and waiting for Reed and Sue to get to the table was amazing too. I love the fact that they sit and eat dinner every night as a family. That's perfect. The relationship on screen is exactly how it's supposed to feel. Johnny joking with Ben back and forth and seeing their brotherly bond is essential to get right. Just like seeing Reed and Sue's love on screen and showing how much Johnny cares for his sister and how much Ben is in tune with everyone's emotions, that he immediately guesses that Sue's pregnant, and the look that she gives him was perfect. It's like she knew if anyone was going to figure it out, it was him, and the look between them and the hug they share is perfect. I love it. Ben especially, like I said earlier. I love the Thing. I was very excited to see how they would treat him in this movie. After watching the trailers, I had a strong feeling that they were going to nail this character. I already loved the look that they gave him. It was straight from Jack Kirby's comics. I love Michael Chiklis' version. Don't get me wrong. I love that he was already a fan and that he fought for a practical suit. Because of that, I felt real in his world. But this movie nailed Ben Grimm to a T. Watching him walk down Yancey Street and talk to people reminded me of Peter Parker in Homecoming when he goes to the sandwich shop and he's talking to people in the neighborhood, the do the flip guy. Ben is a neighborhood guy. Everyone knows Ben, regardless of how much he's changed. Everyone still treats him the same way. Kids aren't scared of him. People aren't scared of him. They love Ben. And he's a down-to-earth guy who likes to stay home. He's a big softy who cooks, and he's on covers of garden magazines. He loves to walk around his old neighborhood in hats and sweaters, and I love that. I love how he still feels so normal, regardless of everything that's happened and his abilities now. I think that's so important for his character, like Superman and the way Clark has all these powers. He's super strong, but regardless, he's a normal guy at heart, and getting that right with Ben is perfect. The old Fantastic Four movie did that, but it felt like this one did it so much better, and Ben was definitely my favorite throughout the whole movie. I see a lot of people saying that Johnny's their favorite, but it's Ben for me. And second to that is Vanessa Kirby, who played Sue Storm. She absolutely killed this role. She was the emotion throughout this whole movie, from her first scene of her pregnancy announcement to her last scene, where she shows how much of a hero she truly is. I felt like there was no one who could have done a better job. I love that they gave her so much to do in this movie, seeing that she is basically the head of the UN, and she's garnered peace with other countries. She's brought peace with the subterranean leader Mole Man, and that he solely trusts her completely. It makes me trust her. It makes me root for her. It even comes full circle when they have to hide everyone underground from Galactus, and they wouldn't be able to do that if it wasn't for her. She embodied Sue Storm through and through, being a mother to the group, being a mother in the movie, and being the perfect wife to Reed, someone who can challenge him on every level and keep him in check. Because Reed, despite his genius, still lacks in other areas, his genius being a blessing and a curse for him. It's a point of contention when the baby's born and they find out that Galactus wants him. As plans start to fail, you see Reed seriously consider giving up the baby to protect Earth, which of course causes strife between characters. Reed, in this movie, is played by, the awesome Pedro Pascal, and I know a lot of people were skeptic about seeing Pedro in this role, saying maybe he didn't look the part, or he's too old, or the Pedro fatigue is wearing in since we see him on literally everything. But I have to say, just like how I see him on everything and love him, I loved him as Reed Richards. I felt like the character was great, and I've never seen him play this kind of role before. I mean, the voice alone and the way he carries himself in this movie, he transforms into Reed Richards from the comics. It felt like they ripped him straight from the book. He's remorseful about the accident in space that caused them to become what they are, and the fact that he is too smart for his own good. There's even a scene in it where he says that he thinks about all the bad things and finds a way to fix them before they can hurt them, and that's a perfect encapsulation of Reed's character, always thinking and being burdened by his genius. It's tragic, but it's also his biggest strength. It's the reason he's the leader. He has to think about everything, and he has to plan everything. Seeing his arc in this movie, having to struggle with literally the weight of the world on his shoulders and how he's going to save these people, I can't imagine that kind of burden, and Pedro played that emotion perfectly. I am always amazed by Pedro's performances and how he gives me every reason not to doubt him in any role. Reed's back and forth with Sue through the movie was perfect, and their love was palpable. It felt so real, and their arguments felt so real. His relationship with Ben and how they're best friends really needed to be shown, and of course, him cutting up with Johnny was perfect, and that's just how it's supposed to be. Speaking of Johnny, I realize I haven't said anything about him yet. Johnny has so much more to do in this movie than the trailers even showed. I didn't think he would have his own side plot, but he did, and I love that. I love that he wasn't sidelined, and they give him his quirks, where he's a ladies' man. He's a little bit of a jerk. He had all that for sure, but it was mentioning in passing jokes between characters, not like in the original 2005 version in 2007, where you see Johnny in cool cars and constantly hooking up with ladies. In this movie, it felt like it made him more serious as a character, and I like that so much more. I enjoy that he's shown to be smart and capable, and he is his own hero. When everything starts and Shalabal comes down, he's the first to take off into the air and head into danger. He goes after Silver Surfer immediately after she heralds Galactus in Times Square. They have their own brief scene where she speaks to him, and we don't know what she says yet, and we see it stick with Johnny, and he wants to find out where she's from, what she's speaking. He knows he's heard it before, and through the transmissions that they've got through deep space, he, on his own, learns the language, finds out what's going on, and sets up a plan to confront her. He has his own scene of being a hero, detached from everyone else, and that was just so much more than I expected. And I love that Johnny is so much more than his quirks. He's a true hero, and he was done great in this movie. The performance was incredible, the effects were incredible, and after seeing the actor who plays him, Joseph Quinn, in Stranger Things and A Quiet Place Day One, he was also with Pedro in The Gladiator 2. I knew he was going to kill this role, and he absolutely did. I can't wait to see what he does in the future as Johnny and just his career in general. And since I mentioned Johnny, I might as well mention Shalabal, played by Julia Garner. I know there's a lot of concern about changing the Silver Surfer from a man to a woman, We already seen it done in the old Fantastic Four movie, but I thought he was perfect in that. And I guess a lot of people don't know that there are two Silver Surfers in the comics, but I wasn't surprised that they were going to change it since we've already seen Norrin Radd before. There's no need to reprise that same role again and do it the same way over again. So I was excited to see how Julia would play this role, and she exceeded my expectations just like everyone else. The look of her character was incredible. The effects on her, the reflections, you could see in the silver, the mannerisms in her face and her eyes. You could tell that she was conflicted about everything, and she was a victim in her own right, being tormented by Galactus, forced to do things she didn't want to do. When she came down to Times Square and told everyone to love each other and say the things they wish they always had, I knew there was more to her character than just an underling to Galactus. I mean, if you saw the original two movies, you already know, and if you've already read the comics, you already know that she's not doing this because she wants to. But for people out there who are coming into the movie, they might not know that, but Matt Shakman directed it in a way that you could get that throughout the movie. You could see that and understand that. They really did a great job with that. And I love that Matt mimicked this like surfing in her movements. Like, it never felt like she was just flying through the air in one direction. It felt like a surfer waiting on water, and it was perfect. The way she took off at super speed always surprised me, and it made me feel how physically strong she was and how much of a threat she could be on her own without Galactus. Also, the back and forth with her and Johnny is great. We find out she told him earlier to die with yours. She knows what's coming and she wants to prepare these people. It's her own way of dealing with it. Like, these aren't things that Galactus has told her she has to say. These are coming from her heart because she knows this is a sad thing. And now that, we know she's not as bad as she seems. And that comes full circle when at the end she sacrifices herself to defeat Galactus, saving Johnny at the last second. It reminded me of the original one where Norrin Radd defeats Galactus on his own, finally being done with being a pawn of Galactus's destruction. I thought she was done amazingly, and I wish she had a little bit more screen time, but the story arc that she had was much more than I expected, and with a runtime of an hour and 45 minutes, they managed to make it work. And since I brought up Galactus, Ralph Ineson as Galactus, regardless of him not getting too much screen time, I thought he was perfect. The scale of him was perfect, the voice was perfect and menacing and demanding, and the design was terrifying. And you felt the fear of Galactus coming and destroying Earth. It was devastating. I felt scared for the people of Earth, and seeing him show up in person, walking through the city, was terrifying. Earlier in the movie, we find out Sue is pregnant, and this is a big deal. They mentioned that they have been trying for a while, and it seems like it's finally worked. And everything seems to be going right in the world when all of a sudden, the surfer comes down heralding Galactus, and they have to go to space. And he tells them that he wants the baby. He wants it to be his successor, and if he doesn't get the baby, he will destroy Earth. And after a long chase scene, they get out, they evade him, they get back to Earth, and since we know that they've been trying for so long, we know that this isn't something that's going to be easy for them to do. Reed, Sue, Johnny, and Ben don't want to give up this baby, and they aren't going to give up this baby. So we know that something's going to have to give. They're going to have to fight, and that creates so much agency in the movie when Reed has to figure out a way to fix everything. He refuses to tell the public anything but the truth, and now the whole world knows Galactus is coming to destroy Earth. Unless he gets the baby, and we see everyone flip on our heroes. They don't want to give up the baby because, that's their baby, and they don't want anyone to die. So the Fantastic Four, being as great as they are, managed to get everyone back on their side through a beautiful scene with Sue Storm. They eventually come up with a plan to teleport Earth into another galaxy away from Galactus, and of course it doesn't happen. And Silver Surfer foils the plan. Galactus shows up anyway, and that immediately created so much dread. I mean, we've seen movies from the MCU where it feels like it's happy, it's gonna have a happy ending, you know, everyone's joking, but this was serious, and the tone changed, and it felt dark. It felt like everything was gonna come crumbling down. I seriously expected to see this world die, but the Fantastic Four, like I said, being as great as they are, managed to get everyone underground, and they're safe. And when he shows up, they try to outsmart him, and it just doesn't work. Immediately you get hit with that sinking feeling where you know this shit's gonna go bad. But of course, they find a way, and Sue gives up her life in an effort to win. She pushes her limits and refuses to give up her child. That same underlying theme of family constantly playing throughout the movie comes back again, and you see how far she is willing to go for her family, how far everyone is going for family. Reed almost dies. Johnny chooses to make a sacrifice play to get rid of Galactus on his own, with his last words to everyone being to tell his nephew that his uncle loves him. And at the last second, they manage to get Galactus teleported away with the help of Silver Surfer, who instead sacrifices herself to make sure that happens. And they've won now, and Sue is gone. She's dead. She pushed her power so far it killed her to save her family and to ensure that the Earth is saved. And right back to family again. She's brought back to life through the powers of her baby son, Franklin, who we learned earlier has cosmic powers on a level we don't even know yet. Everyone fought to protect this baby, and in the end, the family saved Sue. She fought for family, and it paid off. It's just a beautiful message and a beautiful movie that I didn't expect to be so good. I find it so different from other MCU movies. Maybe it's just because I love Fantastic Four so much, but I feel like this is a new beginning for these movies. A true fresh start. Also, 87% on Rotten Tomatoes just doesn't feel like enough for me. If I had to rate it, I don't know what I'd give it out of a percent, but it's definitely a 9.5 out of 10. It's such a solid movie that I have no complaints. I mean, if you put a gun to my head and said that I have to say something, maybe it'd be a little bit more Galactus. I feel like I didn't know him enough as a character. I mean, I know him from the comics, but from a movie perspective, I didn't feel like there was enough. He did kind of feel like a big bad, just maybe to people who don't know, just another generic big bad, which I know he'll probably be back again, and I know that's not the end. I know that's not the end of Galactus, but you know, I feel like he'll get seen again, and because of that, 9.8 feels right. I mean, this movie was fantastic.
Say that again?
Pun intended. And it was excellent set design. It had clever writing. It was very well paced, superb visual effects, and of course, top-notch acting. And please go see it for yourself if you haven't. And if you do, enjoy yourself.